Hello everyone, this is Vijendra Gaikwad and today we are going to see about socket programming in C. So generally we have been using many applications which allow us to send and receive data from one PC to another either through a switch which is connecting to both the systems or directly through some crossover cable. So we will be using socket programming to design such an application today by using the C language. So this application will be useful in order to create a simple chatting platform, a platform to transfer a file from one end to the other end, and so on. We may even go on to design a calculator uh, which is going to compute arithmetic and trigonometric operations for us. So we will provide the data and the operation from the client side, and we may expect the server to return the result to us for every desired operation. So for this, we are going to utilize the socket programming system calls available in C language. So without any ado, let us go on and see what exactly socket programming is and how server side and client side sockets are created. Okay, so to begin with, uh, TCP sockets usually work in these six steps, right? So whenever we are, you must be knowing that whenever we have to uh, transfer some data from the client to the server and back from the server to the client, in case of wired connection, we have to establish the connection first from client to server. Then the data is transmitted until and unless either of the ends terminate the connection, the data can be transmitted. And then finally, the connection will be terminated with the close system call. In case of UDP, what happens is we don't establish any connection as such. We simply lay out the packets for the destined server, and uh, we hope that the packets will reach the server in case of UDP connection, that is wireless connection. But again, this UDP protocol is used for messages or data that is small, right? So in case of huge data which is to be sent from client to server or vice versa, we prefer TCP connection for that. Okay, simply because it is reliable way of communication. Once you establish the connection, the the communication will persist until unless you terminate the communication explicitly, either of the parties, either the server or the client. Also, in TCP communication, there's no need for rearrangement of the received packets. You must have studied it in theory, right? Whereas in case of UDP, since the packets are just laid out in the medium, we need to perform rearrangement of the packets if the data sent is or the message sent is too large. So that is an overhead for us in case of UDP to the receiving end. We have to rearrange the packets again. Anyways, so in this particular session, we are going to see about TCP socket programming. And as you can see, we have a number of steps to be performed on the server side and on the client side as well. So before any data is transmitted from the server, or from the client to the server, or server to the client, we have this concept of creating a socket. Now what is a socket? You can imagine socket as an interface through which we are going to send and receive our data. Okay, so on the server, firstly we have to create that socket by using the socket system call. We'll see the implementation in detail in a few moments, but for now try to visualize what can happen in this process. So we'll create a socket with the socket system call, and then we have to bind that socket with the IP address and some port number on which the server is going to accept the client requests. So that IP address can be definitely the IP address of the server system, and port number can be any integer value which is above 1024, because the first 1024 ports are reserved by the system for its internal usage, so that's why we can't use those port numbers. Okay, so once this socket is created, we have to bind that socket with the IP and the port number. In order to do so, we have to firstly store this IP address and the port number somewhere, isn't it? So there is a structure which you can observe here, sock addr underscore in, which we utilize to store the server's IP address, port number, and other information. Okay, so what we will do, we will keep the IP address and the port number. This structure is having three structure members actually. One is for storing the port number, one is for storing the addressing family which is being used by the server. So definitely if we are using IPv4, we will use a constant AF underscore INET, right? So that is the second member to represent the family of addressing, and the third member is regarding IP address. So that member is called as sign underscore adder, and this member of this structure sock adder underscore in, that sign underscore adder member itself is a structure, right? So that is a structure member of this structure. So in that structure, inner structure, there is a structure member s underscore addr, to which we have to assign this IP address. We'll see in the program and you will be able to understand it more clearly. Fine. So once we create a structure variable of this particular type, sock addr underscore in, with that, or for that structure variable, we will store the IP address, the port number, and the family. Got this? Then once we have created that variable, we will bind the socket with the newly created uh, address information that is stored in the structure, and then the next step is to start listening to the incoming client connections, right? Once we are done with the server's configuration, we will be moving in the listening mode, and the server will be open to handle the client request. Okay, once it sees that an incoming connection is there from the client side, it will accept the incoming connection by using the, again for binding we have a system call, we for listening as well we have a system call. Similarly, for accepting any incoming client connection, we have a system call. Okay, now as we accept any incoming client connection, implicitly this accept system call will create a new socket which will work with the newly connected client, and henceforth we will be able to send and receive the data through that newly created socket for that particular client. Understood? For sending and receiving of data, we have three pairs of functions. That is, one is read and write. The second pair is receive, send, and the third pair is receive from, send to. Understood? So all the three pairs are used for the same reason. You will be able to transmit data through the read, uh, receive and receive from functions, and you will be able to transmit the data by using the send, send to, and the write functions. Now the same three pairs of functions will be used from the client side as well whenever client wants to send or receive the data. Clear with this six steps that we need to do on the server side. Okay, next, like we have TCP server, we have a TCP client. Again, we will create a socket on the client as well. We will keep the server's information, whatever, since we are trying to communicate with the server, we are again storing the server's information in a structure variable of the same type. Then we are using a connect system call in order to send a connection request to the server. As soon as we send a connection request, the if the server is listening, then it will accept that connection and perform further sending and receiving from client to server and server to client will take place. Understood? So these were 4 to 5 steps of the client socket that we need to do. Same things are replicated in this diagram if you are able to see. On the server side, firstly we'll create the socket with the socket system call. We will bind the socket with the IP address and port number information of the server. Then we will start the listening. Now once we have started listening, at that point of time, uh, even if we are ready with the server part, until and unless a connection request comes, the server will be in sleep mode or it will be blocked, right? Now once the client generates the connection request, it will establish a connection with the server, and then further this reading writing regime will be continued until and unless either of the parties, that means client or the server, call the close system call, which is for termination of the TCP connection. Got this? Okay. Yes. Now you must be able to see the main function of our server.c or server sock underscore server underscore sock dot c program, right? So this is our server's code. What we are doing here is, first of all, now we are going to, when we are going to execute the server, we are going to pass the port number as a command line argument. Now as you know, you must be knowing that command line arguments are by default stored in this vector argv, right, which is of a character pointer type, right, and all the elements that we, or all the arguments that we pass from the command line are stored in this in a string format. No matter whether it is numeric or text, all are stored in string form. Fine. So whatever arguments we pass, Now that argument includes our program name as well when we run the program. So that program name is the zeroth argument, followed by all the other arguments that we pass. So when we pass program name, when we run the program and pass the port number, that means the total number of arguments that we are going to pass is 2, right? So argc, which is the argument counter, will have a value 2. Understood? So when we execute the server program, we are just going to pass the port number of the server. Fine. Next, we have a few declarations. We'll come to that as and when we require them. Fine. The thing is that firstly, we have to create a socket. Fine. And next, we have to store the server's information into the structure variable. So here is our structure that we discussed, and here are two structure variables of the same. One we will utilize to store the server information, and the other will be used when we accept a connection from the client. Okay, so here server underscore addr is used to store the server's information. Next, we have a character array called as buffer, in which we are actually going to store our data or the message which we want to transmit from the server side. And whenever we'll receive some data from the client side, we will again be storing the same in this buffer itself. Okay, yeah. Then we have a len variable of the type sock len underscore t, which usually is required to store the size of an address, right? So usually the size of an address is 32-bit, but to store it in a particular format we require this data type. Okay, so we have kept a len variable of sock len underscore t data type. Later on in one of the system calls we will be requiring this len variable. Anyways, so before we actually create the socket, initially we are going to firstly check whether we have passed the right number of arguments or not. Fine. So if argc is having a value less than 2, then in that case we are going to notify the user that this particular command line arguments is not the required ones, and we need to at that time again, for server we don't expect the IP address because we are just providing the port number, so this is not required. And if that is so, then we are going to terminate our program abnormally by calling the exit system call, exit one system call. Fine. Next is we are going, if it goes right, we have the right number of parameters passed from the command line, then we are going to store the port number into our port number integer variable, right? So the index at which port number is present in our argv vector is 1, isn't it? And as I told, everything that is passed from the command line is in the string format, and we want port number to be in its integer format. So for that we have to use the a to I function, an inbuilt function to convert the string into its equivalent integer. Got this? So whatever is the equivalent integer value, that port number will be stored in this variable port number. Okay, this is the first step in which we are going to create the socket, the one that I have highlighted. Okay, what we are actually doing, we are calling the socket system call, and to that we are passing three parameters. The first parameter specifies that we will be using the IPv4 version. Fine. So AF underscore inet specifies we will be using the IPv4 scheme for representation of IP addresses. Second argument is sock underscore stream, which specifies that we are using TCP connection. If we are using UDP, then in that case it will be sock underscore dgram. So data short form for datagram is dgram. Instead of stream, we will be using dgram. And the third argument is the default protocol that we are going to use, that is IP. So to specify IP as the default protocol, we use the integer 0. Understood these three? And once the socket is created with this system call, its file descriptor, that means the socket file descriptor, will store a value of 1 if it is created, if the socket is created properly. And if the socket is not created properly, it can store a value of -1. Fine. So just to verify whether the socket is created properly or not, we are going to check the contents of sockfid, sockfd. If it is less than 0, then we'll print a error message that there was an error in opening the socket, and again we'll exit by calling the exit1 function. We'll terminate the program. If not, if socket is created properly, in that case we come to our second step, that is we'll build the structure to store the server address. Now as I told, this is our structure variable serve underscore addr, in which the first member of this structure is sign underscore family, and since we are using IPv4, we specify af underscore inet. Okay. Then the second member is, as I told, to store the IP address, we have a member sign underscore addr, which itself is a structure. So to access the member of this structure, again we have to put a dot and the structure variable's name, that is s underscore addr. To that, I mean, we are storing the IP address of the server in it, and instead of specifying any specific IP address over here, I have mentioned in addr underscore any. So this is a constant which is used to store any IP address which will be uh, assigned to the server system. Now if we have a dynamic way, or if we are following the DHCP protocol, in that case server will have a IP address, so a new IP address each time it boots. That is why it is better to keep it as in addr underscore any. If you have a very specific IP address, a static IP I mean, then you can simply specify that IP address. How to do it, we'll see in the client side, where we have to store the exact IP. Okay. Now since we are executing the server and the client on the same system, we can even specify our loopback address, right, which is 127.0.0.1. right, the same IP can be kept as the IP of our server system. Anyways, I think that is clear. The next member of our serve address uh, structure variable is sign underscore port, in which we are going to store the port number. Now definitely port number needs to be stored in a specific format. We have the port number in integers, but this sign underscore port member of the structure has a specific format to store, I mean the network format. That is why we use the host to network short function. This is called as H2NS, is called as host to network short. We also have a type as host to network long, right? But depends on what value we are using, we will use short or long over here, and whatever is the resultant value, we'll store it in our sign underscore port number. So these are the three things we are storing in the structure of our server. Okay. Next step is to bind the socket to the address and the port number. Now definitely we know where is the address and the port number. It is present in this structure variable. Fine. So we will call the bind function. We will call the bind function. To that we are passing three parameters. First one is the file descriptor of the socket that we have created for the server. Second is a pointer to the structure of our server address, right? But here you may observe we have casted that structure variable into a type struct sock addr. This serve underscore addr structure is of which type? Sock addr underscore in, right? But this bind function is expecting a pointer of this particular type, so we have casted this into the required type, and then we are passing it as a second argument. So this is a very trivial step that we need to follow. And third argument is the size of our structure variable. So we generally use the size of function to compute the size of any variable or any structure variable. So we pass that structure variable, and this system call of bind will return a value 1 again if the binding is done properly. If it returns -1, then the binding has some error. So we are again checking it in the same step. If it returns 1, fine. If it returns -1, then it is definitely less than 0, and in that case we are going to print a error. Okay. Once we have performed binding, next step is to listen to any incoming client request, right? For that we have another system called listen, and through which socket we have to listen, we have to specify the file descriptor of that socket, right? And how many client requests we have to handle, that we can specify as the second argument to the listen function, right? For example, if I have specified 5, it does not mean that I will be able to handle 5 requests at a time on my server coming from the client. No. So it means that I will maintain a queue of size 5, and I will handle one request at a time from those 5 requests on my server. Fine. So 5 is nothing but the size of that queue which I am maintaining to keep my server requests. Understood this? So you can specify any number. Generally, just simply just to avoid congestion, we keep the number as low as possible. It also depends upon what type of application we are creating. I mean, how many connection requests we can expect at a given point of time. Okay, depending upon that, you can decide that value. Okay, fine. So this was listen. Next, as I told, we have to accept any incoming request. uh, we'll make the system call accept. To that we are passing the same socket file descriptor, and whenever the incoming request is there from the client, a new socket will be created by the server socket program, which will be exclusively dealing with the client requests coming from a very specific client, isn't it? For that reason, we created a structure variable client underscore addr, similar to what we had as serve underscore addr. So all the information of that client will be stored in this structure, and third parameter is the size of that structure variable. I mean the client underscore addr structure variable. So here, as I told earlier, we have calculated the size of that structure variable, kept it in len, and then we are passing a pointer to it. Understood? So this accept function is requiring a pointer to the size. So we have mentioned ampersand over here. Okay, so these are the general requirements of every system call. So that is why we have to put them accordingly. As I explained in the earlier step as well, for binding, similar to that, we are expecting, or the accept function is expecting a pointer to this type of structure variable, but our structure variable is of type sock addr underscore in. So we have to cast it, we have to typecast it and then pass a pointer to this accept call. Understood? As soon as this accept call is executed, a new socket will be created, and the new socket's file descriptor will be stored in this integer variable new sock fd. Understood? And then we are going to check whether the new socket is created properly or not, just in the similar way what we did earlier. If it is -1, then there is an error in accepting the request. If it is 1, then it is fine. Okay. Now the configuration part of the server is done. Now we are ready to send and receive data from the server and the client. Fine. So ideally, this communication, sending and receiving of data, will take place continuously, and that is why we are mentioning the reading writing activity in an infinite loop. So while one, this particular task will be performed. Okay. Firstly, uh, whatever we have in the buffer currently, we can clear the buffer contents by calling the b0 function, pass the name of the buffer which we want to clear and the size of the buffer. Fine. These are the two uh, arguments to the b0 function. Okay. Now we have designed it in such a way that the client will, once the connection is established from the client to server, then client will be initiating the communication. Client will send some data. So obviously the server should be on the receiving side. So we are using the read function. You can devise your program in any of the way. You can, as an acknowledgement that the connection is established, you can firstly send some message from the server upon which the client will respond, and so on and so forth, the communication will go ahead. But I have done it in this way. You can do it in either of the ways. Fine. So I have used the read function to read some data which is coming from the client side. Okay. To the read function, we are passing the file descriptor, socket file descriptor of the newly created socket through which we are going to read the data. Okay. Second argument is the name of the buffer in which we are going to store the data which we have read. Okay. And third is the size of the buffer. Fine. Now, if the read runs properly, if we are able to read the information properly, again, a 1 or -1 value will be stored in, or it will be returned by the read function, which we are storing it in a variable n. Again, we are again performing the verification activity whether the reading is performed properly or not. As soon as we read something from the client, we will print that message on the server's terminal, saying as client, and the message which was passed by the client will display the buffer contents simply. Done. Once we have read some data, we have to send some response from the server. We are going to utilize the same buffer to store our response and then send it. You can do, instead of clearing the buffer every time, what you can do is you can have one buffer for reading the data and one buffer for writing the data. You can do it in either of the ways. Okay. So I am using the same buffer, so I have cleared it again. Then whatever we type on the terminal of our server, that has to be read and kept into the buffer, isn't it? Whatever I type, that has to be kept into the buffer. So we have a fgetS function to read whatever we type. Why I am saying this fget function can be used for reading the or getting the data from a file as well. but depends upon what stream we are specifying as the third argument. Since we have specified std in, it suggests that we are going to read whatever is being typed on the console. If I would have used any other file stream, in that case this function would have read the data from that file through that specified file stream, and it would have stored that information in the buffer. But we are specifying standard input, which is our console. We'll read it, we'll store it in the buffer, and the second argument is the buffer size. Fine. Fine. Once we have the data in the buffer, now we have to write that data through our client socket, right? So again, similar to what we had, the syntax for read, the same is the syntax for write as well. The file descriptor for the client socket, the buffer, and its size. If it is done return properly, it will return 1, otherwise -1. The same we are checking over here. So this reading writing will continuously go on until and unless the buffer stores a by. So as a terminating condition for this TCP connection, I have used this mechanism. You can use any other mechanism. So if we find, if any message is sent from the server or from the client whose first three characters match with this BYE, that is by, in that case we are going to break out from the infinite loop, while loop. Understood? So this strncmp function is used to compare the specified n characters from the buffer. So if the buffer's first three characters are BYE, then strcmp is going to return 0. I hope you all might be knowing this. String compare function, if both the strings match, it returns a 0. If they don't, it returns a -1. Sorry, a 1. In that case, if it matches, then it will return a 0. But for this if condition or if statement to execute, we require a true, that is a 1. So we'll knot that up. If it is 0, it will be converted to 1, and this break statement will get executed. That is what I have followed. You can follow any other mechanism. So that is the while loop. Once we come out of the loop, we are going to close the client socket. We are going to close the server socket simply, and that is the end of our server program. Any doubt by far? Okay, we'll see the we'll see the client part quickly, and then we'll continue. We'll see the execution later. Okay, so this is our client. Again, we have included all the header files which are required for socket programming. Then we have the main function. Again, we are going to accept the same command line arguments. Now here in the command line argument, when we execute the client program, observe this part that I have highlighted. What we are doing, we are simply specifying the file name, I mean /file name, the client file name, and besides that we are specifying the server's IP address with which we want to communicate, and the port number of the server at which it is going to accept the client request. So this is a port number of server only. So remember, whatever port number we passed as command line argument when we executed the server code, the same port number must be passed over here. And if your system is having any IP address, you can provide that over here. Otherwise, if you're running server and client on the same thing, on the same system, you can provide the loopback address. Okay, the same variables that we declared earlier, the same things are here more or less. It is only that we don't have any client structure separately. because we need not store the client information. This itself is the client, and we only need to store the server information since we are going to send the data. So for that we have a structure variable. Again, we have verified whether we are having the right number of command line inputs. If not, we will terminate abnormally by calling the exit one system call. Next, again, we have stored the port number, which is now, earlier in the server program it was present as the first argument. Now it is present as the second argument. We have stored the port number. We have called the socket system call again, uh, provided the required number of arguments because nothing changes over here. uh, as soon as we create the socket, we'll check whether it is created properly or not. Similar way, in the same way, what we did for the server, we are again going to create the structure. We are going to build the structure for our server information. The same things, nothing changes. Just here, as I told, here we specified uh, in addr underscore any in the server side. Here we are going to specify the address of the server, and which is nothing but what we have accepted as the first command line argument, isn't it? So we are specifying that. Here we are using a function inet underscore addr. Why it is so? As I told, every command line argument is just a string. So what conventionally we do is 120, if we are specifying loopback address, so it will be 127.0.0.1. So it will be a string, but this information needs to be stored in a format with which the system will be able to identify it as a IP address. And to convert into that format from the string format, we have this function inet underscore addr. Understood? So that is why this function is required, to which we are passing the string IP address. So that is how we build the server's address structure over here. The next step at the client side is to simply connect with the server. To the server, for connection with the server as well, we are going to use the socket which we have created, or the file descriptor of the socket which we have created. Again, the same server's pointer to the server address structure and the size of the address structure. Again, if the connection is established, it will, the connect system call will return 1. If not, -1. We are checking for the same. The next step is directly to start the communication. The same things, just there in the server program we had read function. Here we are having write function, simply because, as I told earlier, in this particular program I am expecting the client should initiate the communication. Fine. Same things, the same write function uh, and the same read function, prior to which we have cleared the buffer. Fine. And whatever is the once we read the response from the server, we are going to print it, just as we displayed the on the server side what client sent. Here we are going to display what server sent, and the same mechanism to get out of the infinite loop. And once we get out, we just have a single socket, so we'll close that socket, and that will be all. Understood this? So I'll quickly go for the execution. Yeah, I think so. We are using two terminals, one for execution of the client and one for execution of the server program. Okay, so we'll firstly execute our server program. Because server needs to be in the listening mode before a client sends a request, otherwise the connection request will be failing. Okay. So I've used a port number 98 and 98. You can use any other port number. Yes, now the server is active. uh, we'll go and execute the client part. Hmm, yeah, yeah, it's just a, I think it's a warning. Doesn't matter. So I execute the client, and at the time of execution, I have to pass an IP address of the server. I will use the same loopback address over here, and then the port number at which the server is running or it is accepting the client request. Once we execute, we have to send a message from the client first. So I'll send a hi. uh, yeah, on the server you observe that client has sent hi. I'll send a hey. Yeah, on the client you will see the server's response as hey, how are you. You can send any other message. And once uh, if I want to just terminate this session of communication, I'll put by client. So the first three characters should be by. Even if you send by, it is fine. uh, yeah, this is the client's response, and when we say by server, yeah, it got terminated. uh, and again, if you go to the prompt of the client, you can see uh, it has got out of the infinite loop, and now program has terminated. Client program has also terminated. Got this? So that's all. If there are any doubts, you are free to ask.